I suspect that members who have served with me since the inception are getting tired of me talking about driver's licenses. But I've got a hold of this issue, and I'm trying to fix it in the best way we can. We first had a $10.5 billion backlog of money, of people who owed money on traffic tickets because there's so much dough. And we had something like 4.2 million people over 8 years who lost their driver's licenses. We did an amnesty program to clean up the backlog. We got 250,000 people in California who got their licenses back, and the government got money that otherwise wouldn't have. You can complain about it, but before it's like getting blood out of a stone. These people don't have any money, and we made the plans. Then we set up a process whereby we had people who actually had to go to court and pay in advance to have their case heard. Well, that was dumber than a box of rocks. What the heck is that about? So we fixed that. Now what we're trying to do is to deal with this issue about people who don't have the money to pay their fines shouldn't lose their license. They should lose their license if they're a bad driver. They should lose their license if they violate the law and don't show up in court, because you got to show up in court and you got to be responsible. They should lose their license if, any other thing. We got a whole vehicle code for those who've seen me carry it before. And what we're doing here is two things that I think are pretty important. First is we're decoupling failure to pay with loss of driver's licenses. The Futures Commission of the Supreme Court just came out with a report that talked about actually moving driver's license infractions out of the criminal justice system and move them into the civil system so that you don't get these big civil fines and you don't lose your license. It means that you go after a collection just like anybody else. When you seek to collect the money, you have every other available tool, but you don't lose your license. And why is that important? Because we have learned when you lose your license, it impacts your ability to get a job or impacts your ability to make money in so many ways. And then you get this spiral where all of a sudden you're driving because you got to take your kid to the doctor or you got to go to school or whatever it might be, and you get busted for not having a driver's license, and then you're back in the criminal downward spiral. And so what we're trying to do here is to bring some justice to that. And the second thing is that if you're 250% of the poverty level, meaning you're in $30,000 if you're single, a few more dollars if you're married and have kids, that you get to have a payment plan, because these fines are just too expensive. The idea behind this system is that you're supposed to punish somebody. Well, what if I told you that the fine was $8 billion? For somebody who doesn't have a lot of money, $700 is equivalent to $8 billion. So let's create a situation where if in government you're trying to achieve behavior, you're trying to punish people's bad behavior, but there has to be a rational relationship. Actually, in Finland, I read a case where somebody was fined $171,000 for speeding with one fancy car because the person could afford it. They have a different set of rules. I'm not proposing that, but I'm proposing taking care of folks. So the real elements of this, and I just think it's important because I'm going to be back next year and the year after and the year after working on this kind of stuff, is one, you don't lose your license for failure to pay, but everything else. Two, that when you're poor, that there's a number that you can, you go to court, you present the evidence to a judge looks at it, judge can say, sorry, Charlie, you're going to get the old fine, or because of your circumstances, I'm going to reduce the cost of the fine. You still have a fine for your bad behavior. Ask for your support.
Thank you, Senator Hertzberg. Discussion or debate? Seeing none, Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. Anderson. Aye. Atkins. Aye. Bates. Bell. Aye. Berryhill. Bradford. Aye. Canella. Aye. De Leon. Dodd. Aye. Fuller. Gaines. Galgiani. Gaines, aye. Galgiani. Glazer. Aye. Hernandez. Aye. Hertzberg. Aye. Hill. Aye. Hueso. Aye. Jackson. Aye. Lara. Leyva. Aye. McGuire. Aye. Mendoza. Aye. Mitchell. Monning. Aye. Morlock. Morrell. Newman. Aye. Wynn. Aye. Nilsson. Pan. Aye. Porcentino. Aye. Roth. Skinner. Aye. Stern. Aye. Stone. No. Vidak. No. Wykowski. Aye. Wiener. Aye. Wilk. Aye.
Please call the absent members.
Allen. Aye. Bates. No. Berryhill. Aye. De Leon. Fuller. No. Galgiani. Aye. Lotta. Mitchell. Morlock. Morrell. No. Nilsson. Roth.
Ayes 29, 5-0, the measure passes.